Wow, it's that time of the year again, and with just a few days before 2022 ends, it has certainly been an interesting year to say the least, and for the channel, I can't thank everyone enough for your constant support, and here's hoping that next year will be better. And similar to last year, we as anime fans were spoiled for choices when it came to the releases of new animes and the amount of god tier sequels that we got as well. So keeping to the channel's tradition, I wanted to take a look back at the year and share with you some of my personal picks for the best animes that I enjoyed. So here are some of the best animes of 2022.
いいからして。
The first anime on my list is My Dress Up Darling, one of the biggest surprises to come out during winter 2022 because although it was competing with the likes of Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan, it was somehow able to take over the community and even top the popularity chart for weeks. But what made this anime special? While the easiest answer is Marin Kitagawa, the best waifu of the year, a more reasonable answer is that the characters are just well written and lovable. You have Marin, an outgoing and confident girl who's not afraid to speak her mind and do what she loves even though she's terrible at it. Her personality and energy is just so contagious that you can't help but fall for a character. Then there's Gojo Wakana, an introverted and hardworking guy that is very passionate about Hinados but is afraid of people finding out after a traumatic experience with a childhood friend. Both people with unlikely personalities coming together because of their passion and not be afraid about doing what they love just feel so endearing and entertaining to watch, and it was definitely smart to use cosplay to give both the characters a common goal and as a catalyst for their development. People will say that My Dress Up Darling is nothing but waifu bait, and I can't completely disagree, although that just seems like such a shallow view and I still think it's one of the best rom-coms to come out this year. Having said that, let's talk about Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan. They are obviously on my list for best anime of the year and I'm sure I don't even need to explain why. Now, the newest season of Demon Slayer wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it does build upon the foundations laid by the original season and previous movie to give us a more solid improvement in the direction of the story along with some new interesting characters to enjoy. But let's be honest here, we all know that the animation and sound designs are what really carried the show in the first place, and Ufotable managed to deliver again with even higher quality for the production while still maintaining the right amount of humor, emotion, action and storytelling. That's why this is on my list. As for Attack on Titan, this is pretty much a continuation of part 1 but adds to the overall narrative and world building of the story. There are also interesting plot twists that give some nice callbacks to previous seasons. Now about the animation, it definitely felt like a big step up by Mappa compared to part 1, and despite what you think of the series, Attack on Titan is a cultural phenomenon that has created some of the most exciting and mind-blowing moments in the medium. But anyways, the next anime I wanted to talk about is Summertime Render, and the show follows our protagonist Shinpei as he is brought back to his hometown to attend the funeral of his childhood friend Ushio. However, it turns out her death wasn't as simple as he first thought, and this would be the setup to a story filled with mystery and the supernatural with things like doppelgangers and time loops. I can best describe this as a murder mystery show that starts off with some surprising reveals coupled with a few horror elements, but eventually transitions into a psychological drama as characters try to discover who their enemies really are and how they'll handle them. The change in pacing and tone is what made the show interesting and filled with suspense, but I think the episode constraint really hampered the flow as sometimes certain plot points would pass by too quickly, although it was still an overall amazing show if you like this specific genre. And honestly, it would have gotten more attention too if it wasn't thanks to the corporate garbage that is Disney, which killed the majority of the interest. But regardless, Summertime Render still made it into my list because of the twists and turns the narrative takes, and I always love myself a good supernatural mystery show. It's time to talk about Isekais.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Now, hear me out. I know what people think of isekais, but honestly speaking, this has been quite a decent year for isekais, and we actually gotten some new ones that have very interesting takes on the genre. But before I talk about the new isekais, I wanted to start off with Overlord Season 4, and after waiting 4 years, Madhouse Studios still manages to deliver exactly what I love about the series. The strategies, the funny misunderstandings, the crazy behaviors of the characters, the fighting, and the overpowered nature of Ainz. And this sequel was especially enjoyable because we are finally getting closer to see Ainz achieve world domination as the payoff and world building from the previous seasons have slowly started to come together. And despite some people's confusion and anger about them skipping 2 whole light novel volumes, it didn't feel like they detracted too much from the flow of the overall narrative by doing this. Overlord still manages to impress, and I can't wait for the eventual movie to come out.
特に何もなしだな。
But moving on to some of the new isekais that I enjoyed this year, we have Isekai Ojisan, and this one is a reverse isekai with a twist. It's actually someone who was first transported to another world coming back to his original world, and the show basically follows the life of the uncle trying to readjust to his new or previous life in the normal world with the help of his nephew while they both try to earn a living. It's a really funny series that doesn't take itself too seriously, poking fun and deconstructing several of the tropes that isekais are associated with, and the biggest highlight for me was the amount of old school references that the show manages to sneak in, especially the opening for the show. Isekai Ojisan is a really unique and funny show that isn't afraid to do something weird to keep the format refreshing, and it was sad how a majority of the hype was killed by the many delays and issues plaguing the production, but I still think it was a very interesting show to watch. So have you ever thought what it would be like if you transported a sociopathic Chuninbyo to a fantasy world and make him overpowered?
I need more power.
Wow, then you need to watch the Eminence in Shadow because this isekai has some of the craziest and most hilarious scenes I've seen in a while. The satirical and troll-like comedy that makes fun of the genre definitely made me thought of Konosuba whenever I watch it. The main character Sid Kageno is a delusional Chuninbyo who thinks that the real events happening around him are make-believe and he simply wants to do anything he can to live out his Ash Lord fantasies. But his ignorance is what makes it so interesting. The constant irony and his ability to bullshit anything into reality, combined with his crazy ambitions, just somehow feels funny to watch. I mean, the dude wanted to surpass a freaking nuclear bomb, so he trained himself to become basically a nuclear bomb. Also, the show is filled with so many best girls, and my personal favorite is definitely Delta. I think The Eminence in Shadow is one of the best troll animes to come out this year, and despite the negative complaints, this is a show that will give you a good laugh, but if you're expecting something deep or meaningful, then this isn't the anime for you. One last isekai to talk about is Paripi Koumei, and yes, I choose to believe that the show was intended to be an isekai from the start and you can't tell me otherwise. Now, the story is quite interesting. Basically, Koumei, also known as Zhuge Liang, the famous strategist from the Three Kingdoms period, had wished to be reincarnated in a more peaceful era before his dying breath, and his wish was granted, transporting him to modern-day Tokyo where he would meet an aspiring singer named Aiko Sukumi. After hearing her voice, he became captivated by her performance and promised to help her reach her dreams of becoming a great singer. So yeah, a pretty outlandish premise, but it actually does a good job at giving us a grounded look at the harsh reality of the music industry along with the struggles of a music artist. And seeing how they were able to take the historical tactics of Koumei, adapting them into a modern setting and having it make sense was really well done. Definitely a good treat for any Three Kingdoms fans. Obviously, Paripi Koumei is a music anime and they definitely deliver in the music aspect with some great bangers. For me, Chiki Chiki Bang Bang is still the best opening of the year. Now, since we're on the topic of music, Boji The Rock is an anime that came out of nowhere this year and surprised anyone that was lucky enough to come across it. There's a pretty simple plot of Hitori Goto trying to overcome her crippling social anxiety through a guitar and follows a journey to find success with her new bandmates. And on the surface, this seems like another cute girls doing cute things type of show, but it's so much more. The characters are some of the most grounded you ever see, especially when it comes to Boji herself, and you can't help but become attached or relate to the characters. And the way the show portrays social interactions, like how people with different mannerisms or behavior react to other people, are quite realistic as well. But I think the strongest point of the show is definitely the comedy and animation. They are able to always seamlessly implement visual gags or jokes without taking away the tone of certain scenes. Also, the transitioning or use of different styles like 2D, 3D and real life definitely gave the whole anime a quirk that I personally found to be quite charming and creative. And although Boji The Rock is released alongside some really popular animes for the 4th season, I think it easily surpasses most of them, and I would even say it deserves the title of Anime of the Year. The next anime on my list is Cyberpunk Ash Runners, and knowing how Cyberpunk 2077 turned out, I had low expectations, but boy was I wrong, because Cyberpunk Ash Runners is truly one of the best game animes I've ever seen. They perfectly translated the world of Cyberpunk into anime form, creating a world that feels alive and realistic, showing what it means to live in the infamous Night City. And not to mention the insane production quality that is synonymous with the name Trigger. From the extremely photorealistic neon environments to the insane action scenes, everything just looks breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
Even the soundtracks add so much to the tone and settings of the show, like characters don't even need to speak and you know what story they are trying to convey. And speaking of story, the themes of a kid just trying his best to find a place in this godforsaken world while having to live up to the expectations of others and making the tough choices in life just gives the show a tragic but cathartic feeling. It's a fantastic story about the choices of self-sacrifice and burden, how sometimes the choices you make in life aren't really yours and the road to hell is sometimes paved with good intentions. Honestly, Cyberpunk Ash Runners is another series that I think truly deserves the title of Anime of the Year, and my only issue is that it ended too quickly. 10 episodes felt too little and it definitely left me wanting more. Continuing on, Spy Family is another anime that I really enjoyed, and I guess it's not that surprising because this was one of the biggest mainstream animes to come out this year, and I'm sure if you're on the internet, you couldn't really escape from the amount of Anya and Yor fanarts that were spreading like crazy. For the premise, it's pretty simple. The show is about a found family that slowly turns into a genuine familiar relationship. Like Lloyd initially only saw his family members as nothing more than a stepping stone to achieve his mission of world peace, and although he still sees them as such, he also starts to genuinely care for them and even look after their well-being more out of love rather than obligation. But honestly, you can't really go wrong with the story of Spy Family because it's a solid and consistent show that delivers an endearing and wholesome experience without misleading the audience. I personally expected Spy Family to be another generic and gimmicky shonen show, but what I got was a cleverly written and endearing slice of life with lovable characters, fantastic visual set pieces, and some really hilarious comedy. And no, I don't think it's overrated or overhyped, but this next one definitely is. So Chainsaw Man was one of the most talked about animes this year, and I personally think it's just an okay show. The story isn't anything groundbreaking, although for a shonen, having mature themes do make it unique as compared to other shonen titles. The characters are quite normal as well, nothing too special, although I do have to give credit to Faro's Ai because her portrayal of power is just perfect. But in any case, I think Mappa did an amazing job with the visuals and animations. They are definitely far more appealing and better looking than the manga, making scenes much more easier to follow. As for the CGI, it's obvious that the studio had more time to prepare for this project because the 2D and 3D animations are better looking and seems to be smoother. The sound design was also fantastic, and they are always masterfully placed to give the right emotions and set the tone for certain scenes, which really helps to add another layer of enjoyment to the show. I was also impressed that Mappa decided to have a different ED for every episode because it just seems like such a flex from them. Other than that, I still think people give Chainsaw Man too much credit, and I did enjoy the show, but do I think it deserves to be Anime of the Year? Not really. Although I do admit how insanely gorgeous it looks, and Mappa really outdid themselves with the production.
Ekubo, arigatou. Ekubo wa tomodachi datta.
With that said, the last anime on my list is Season 3 of Mob Psycho 100, and I think this show is the one that truly deserves the title of Anime of the Year. We get the usual character-driven story that the series is known for with a heavy focus on Mob this season, and it has become obvious how much Mob has changed as a character that if you take Mob from Season 1 and Season 3, they are almost a completely different person. Seeing all the build-up from the previous seasons culminating in Mob becoming more confident in his abilities as a human being and actually learning to accept his true self, it just feels satisfying and cathartic. However, it doesn't purely focus on him. Even the side characters are given equal opportunities to learn and grow from Mob's character. Like seeing Dimple's confrontation with Mob and how much they have grown as friends was really heartbreaking but touching at the same time. Also, Reagan's interaction with Mob and him telling the truth was such an emotional moment to close out their relationship as well. And with how much focus this season had on the themes of self-respect and loving yourself, I was quite surprised at how well they were still able to incorporate the humor without disrupting the serious tone of the show. But anyways, seeing Mob's growth as a character, the friends and experiences he made along the way, you can't help but feel proud of him, and this is just a perfect way to give closure to a beloved series. That's why this season deserves every right to be Anime of the Year and why it's one of my top 3 best animes of 2022. One is truly a master at his craft, and although I will miss Mob Psycho, it will always be a masterpiece in my mind. So yeah, that was my personal list of the best animes of 2022, and what do you think of my picks? Also, I did leave out a few animes that I have yet to watch but will probably still be on my list, like Kaguya-sama, a series that I absolutely love, Made in Abyss, which I know will be a masterpiece as well, and Ascendance of a Bookworm, another sequel that I know I will enjoy. It has been an amazing year for anime, and here's hoping that next year will be the same. I also want to know what are your top picks for Anime of the Year and what are some of the animes that you really enjoyed watching this year. Also, I want to thank everyone for the constant support and helping the channel grow. I truly appreciate what you guys have done for me. I wish you all a happy new year, and let's look forward to 2023.